audit revealed over 600 active radio stations with frequencies, many of which were inactive, expired, or improperly renewed. Mr. Speaker, as of this morning, the NCA has commenced phase 2 of our regulatory enforcement following the broadcasting regulation frequency audit. This phase targets several categories of non-compliant FM stations whose operations contravene existing laws and regulations, and includes the following. Group 1, 28 FM radio stations who are currently operating with expired authorizations. Despite the NCA instructing these stations to cease operations in 2024, several of these stations have continued broadcasting unlawfully. These actions constitute a violation of Section 2(4) of the Electronic Communications Act 2008. Group 2, 14 FM stations which were issued notices of revocation for failure to establish operations within the required 2-year period following the grant of their authorizations. These stations later requested technical inspections but have not completed the process and have continued to broadcast in violation of Regulation 54 of the Electronic Communications Regulation LI 1991. Group 3, 13 FM stations which applied for authorization to continue operating and have been issued provisional authorization but have not settled the provisional authorization fees in full. Mr. Speaker, without payment of these fees, their authorizations are invalid and their broadcast is a violation of Section 2(4) of Act 775. The last group of stations that we took action on this morning are 7 FM stations who have paid their provisional authorization fees but have not yet received final authorization in fulfillment of the technical and regulatory requirements under Regulation 54 of LI 1911. Mr. Speaker, spectrum is a finite and highly valuable national resource. It is a public good held in trust for the people of Ghana. Those granted access must therefore comply strictly with all applicable legislations. Mr. Speaker, a few minutes ago, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the President, directed that the Ministry of Communications, Digital Technology and Innovation work with the regulator, the NCA, to allow all the affected radio stations some additional time to correct the identified breaches within a defined time frame. Those who fail to do so shall have their authorizations formally revoked under the law. In line with this directive from His Excellency the President, the Ministry and the NCA have granted a further 30-day grace period to all defaulting entities. Mr. Speaker, this is not the same as the arbitrary revocations and hefty fines imposed under the previous administration. As the current government, the Ministry has also been instructed to waive all the applicable fines that should have been applied to the defaulting entities. Mr. Speaker, since morning, I have received calls from colleagues on both sides of the aisle, notifying me that some interests they may hold have been affected by the ongoing exercise. Dear honorable colleagues, we passed the laws and have a high bar set for ourselves as honorable members of this august house. We need to lead the way with exemplary conduct. As a ministry and regulator, we are status agnostic and will be fair to everyone irrespective of ethnic, religious, political, or social affiliation. Mr. Speaker, let me, just for the records, name the stations that have been affected. Table 1, FM stations that have been issued expiry of authorization letters for failure to apply for renewal. Number 1, Life World Broadcast Limited, operating in Ofinso on 94.3 FM. 2, Akpini Communication Limited, operating in Pando on 96.7 FM. 3, Victory FM in Aflao, operating on 96.1 FM. 4, Oracle Multimedia, operating in Nadoli on 88.5 FM. 5, Jewel Group Limited in Duaria Kwanta, operating on 102.7. 6, Bolton Portfolio Limited, operating in Nkoko on 96.9 FM. 7. The Ghana Institute of Journalism, operating in Accra on 97.7 FM. 8. Obrempong FM, operating in Agona Swedru on 91.7 FM. 9. KD Community Multimedia, operating in Kede on 92.5 FM. 10. Skoja Limited, operating in Joje on 94.5 FM. 11. Press Express Limited, also known as Daily Guide, operating in Accra on 91.5 FM. Obra FM Limited, operating in Takrady on 89.3 FM. Unity Broadcasting Limited, operating in Impoho, 88.7 FM. Jimas FM Limited, operating in Yeji, 102.3 FM. Kantanka Media Limited, operating in Cape Coast, 92.1 FM. Bewa Radio, operating in Yendi, 106.5 FM. Unique Gateway Communication Limited, operating in Nkoko, 105.7 FM. Ken International Company Limited, operating in Achim Swedru, 89.1 FM. Dreams Ghana Media, operating in New Abrim, 104.9 FM. Velvet Beam Foundation, operating in Asankregwa, 92.9 FM. Magic Group Company, operating in Salaga, 101.9 FM. Don Plus Multimedia, operating in Ho, 105.9 FM. Testlight Company Limited, operating in Wa, 96.7 FM. Global Media, Tepa, 97.3 FM. IMAX Media, Tamale, 104.3 FM. Limanya Radio, Wa, 95.7 FM. Pandai Star Radio, operating in Pandai, 107.3 FM. Ebiamo FM, operating in Jomoro on 100.5 FM. They've all been shut down. Table 2, FM stations that were issued revocation notices. Act Forum Ghana Limited, operating in Akpafumimpiasem, 88.1 FM. Chinias Empire Limited, operating in Tumu, 96.3 FM. Confidence Commodities, operating in Swaman, Dadieso, 90.7. F5 Eagles Company, operating in Ajuafua, 93.7. Neat FM Limited, operating in Tamale, 105.3 FM. Primary Stars Limited, operating in Banda, 102.5 FM. Subampa Community Radio in Barakesi, 96.7 FM. Wasaman FM in Atieku on 101.9 FM. Mr. Speaker, number 9, Wontumi Multimedia Company Limited. Wontumi Multimedia Company Limited, operating in Takrady on 101.3 FM. Number 10, Wontumi Multimedia Company Limited, operating in Accra on 95.9 FM. Jimbali Community Association in Jimbali, 95.9. Kingdom Dynamic Kukrantumi, 93.3. Pro Royal Investment in Tepa, 94.7. And Resurrection Television in Takrady, 99.3. Table 3, Siadarak Enterprise in Edukrom, 95.5. Bangu Company, Tamale, 97.3. Jam Multimedia in Kintampo, 101.3. Chameleon Communication in Wa, 91.1. Chaka Multimedia in Jasikan, 88.7. Clickshot Multimedia in Shama, 89.9. Free Minds in Tema, 104.5. Gemsak Media Network in Nswatre, 103.3. Mediacast Limited in Kumasi, 102.5. Mobile Zone in Bolgatanga, 94.3. Ultimate Multimedia in Tamale on 107.1. West FM in Ho on 97.5. Western Salam Company Limited in Takrady, 89.7. And Mr. Speaker, the final table, 7 stations. Asasi Broadcasting Company Limited in Accra on 99.5 FM. Dynamic Chapters Limited in Wenchi on 95.7. Global Media Alliance in Accra on 98.9, God Steve Media Association in Atimpoku on 87.7, Rejoice FM in Mim on 101.7, Sankofa in Takrade on 98.7, and Sweet FM in Chifopraso on 106.5. Mr. Speaker, our goal is not punishment, but accountability, order, and the responsible stewardship of a public critical resource. This is not routine housekeeping. This is a declaration against impunity, abuse, and inertia. The airwaves do not belong to the powerful and connected. They belong to the public, and we are duty-bound to govern them transparently and effectively. Our fight is not against free speech. It is against lawlessness, asset misappropriation, and regulatory defiance. I remain committed to reclaiming what rightfully belongs to the Ghanaian people and laying the foundations for a fair, modern, and technologically equipped broadcasting sector. Once again, Mr. Speaker, due to the clemency His Excellency the President has asked for, there is 30 days from today for all defaulting media houses to rectify their default and breaches. And Mr. Speaker, the ministry has shown that we are willing to reinstate. Earlier this year, we shut down 6 media houses who have all rectified their breaches and they have been reinstated. We urge the defaulting media houses to take advantage of the President's clemency for 30 days. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, that is the statement from the Honorable Minister for Communication and Digitalization.
First, let me thank the Honorable Minister for making this statement on the floor of the House. Mr. Speaker, I paid attention to the statement by the Minister. I heard him talk about regulation. Hearing him on regulation, I looked for my constitution and turned to Article 11 of the Constitution, which guided me on the hierarchy of our laws. It's clear to me from the reading of Article 11 that the regulations he referred to cannot stand in the way of the Constitution. If you read chapter 12 of the Constitution, in particular Article 162, Mr. Speaker, let me take your leave to read. Freedom and independence of the media are hereby guaranteed, subject to this Constitution and any other law not inconsistent with this Constitution. There shall be no censorship in Ghana. 3, there shall be no impediment to the establishment of private press or media, and in particular, there shall be no law requiring any person to obtain a license as a prerequisite to the establishment or operation of a newspaper, journal, or other media for mass communication or information. Mr. Speaker, 4, editors and publishers of newspapers and other institutions of the mass media shall not be subject to control or interference by government, nor shall they be penalized or harassed for their editorial opinions and views or the content of their publications. 5, all agencies of the mass media shall, at all times, be free to uphold the principles, provisions, and objectives of this Constitution, and shall uphold the responsibility and accountability of government to the people of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, lastly, on 162, that's 1626. Any medium for the dissemination of information to the public which publishes a statement about or against any person shall be obliged to publish a rejoinder, or a rejoinder, if any, from the person in respect of whom the publication was made. So, Mr. Speaker, the Constitution provides a comprehensive guide on the operations of the media space in Ghana. Let me rely on the views expressed by the Honorable Sam George, MP for Ningo Pampram, in the 8th Parliament. Mr. Speaker, he spoke strongly against ministerial action in respect of such defaults. He was against any form of penalty. And Mr. Speaker, in his argument, he relied heavily on the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, I adopt those views as though they were mine, to the extent that the Constitution makes certain broader provisions. And this is not to suggest that I am against the subsidiary laws enacted for the purposes of regulating these media houses as part of the checks and balances that are required or needed in every democracy. Mr. Speaker, democracy must be guided for the good of democracy itself. So I agree. But Mr. Speaker, in a situation where it becomes obvious that in the exercise of such discretion, there is a clear breach of Article 296, as my respected colleague, the former ambassador to South Africa and MP for Abrim just said, the intent must be looked at. And clearly, it comes without doubt that Article 296 has some questions for NCA and the ministry to answer. What we are seeing in respect of the statement from the presidency later this afternoon, a supposed clemency. Mr. Speaker, these are things that are done for the optics when the political system sees that there's a backlash. It is a very rich statement, very rich. And we take this supposed clemency with a pinch of salt. Mr. Speaker, we take this with a pinch of salt. That the NCA, together with the ministry, have embarked on a certain path, and now Mr. President, exercising his supervisory mandate, is now telling them that don't do it. Couldn't this have been discussed in-house prior to this decision? Well, Mr. Speaker, we have been in government before, so we can understand the situation the government finds itself. Mr. Speaker, I have heard certain views being expressed to the effect that, oh, yesterday we heard of similar actions by the executive. I recall that as a member of the appointment committee, the issue of the closure of some radio stations became a critical matter for us to even discuss at the appointment committee. And our friends opposite were very, very firm in their conviction. And I shared those sentiments with them. Granted that something happened yesterday which was not good for our country. Do we have to repeat them? No. Since 1993, no one here can tell me that our democratic journey has been static. It's been very dynamic, it's been fluid. Things are done and improved upon. So in this reset regime, we expect better. No, Mr. Speaker, you do not break it and pretend to be fixing it when it's not broken. You broke it. So if you are fixing, then you say we should commend you, we should be happy. Mr. Speaker, Mr. President, clemency is a belated thing. It's because of the public backlash. I would want the NCA and the ministry to be strongly guided by Article 296 of the 1992 Constitution. A regulation cannot overreach and override an express constitutional provision. In the list, the regulation is to guide, but not to impede and stampede the process. What happened today, where Asasi Radio was shut down, Wontumi FM was denied the opportunity to broadcast, Happy FM denied the opportunity to broadcast. Mr. Speaker, must not ever happen again. Because, Mr. Speaker, when same happened yesterday, it received that criticism. Mr. Speaker, I have with me, most respectfully, the Hansard of this House, October 19, 2017, column 998. Mr. Speaker, the work of a member of Parliament is to make his advocacy and rely on records and rely on facts, rely on a reliable research team. And I cannot be making lame arguments here. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Sam George, at column 998, had this to say: I put it on record that the NCA failed to come before this August House in 2015 to approve their schedule of penalties, and that the schedule of penalties as used by the NCA in imposing this charge did not come before this August House of Parliament. As such, NCA is carrying out and perpetrating an illegality which this House must stop, because we are vested with upholding the 1992 Constitution. And I agree with Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker,
Honourable members, order.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, order.
Mr. Speaker, this was the respected colleague who was inviting us to uphold the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, the gravamen of this submission was to the effect that the administrative body with regulatory powers was required by law to comply with certain provisions of the Constitution. And that is why he relied on the veritable words, "We are vested with upholding the 1992 Constitution." Mr. Speaker, when authority is given by the Constitution, the same Constitution imposes an obligation on that authority. And I have said earlier that that limitation is clearly defined by Article 296. So clearly, I am saying that the respected Honorable Minister must not change his principles by virtue of his new position of honor. He fundamentally agrees that we must uphold the Constitution. And at the risk of being repetitive, the provisions in Article 162, as relied on supra, require of us not to impose any impediment. So if the regulation would impede press freedom, our duty as a house, as Honorable Sam George invited us to do, is to uphold the Constitution. It's our duty bona fide. So, Mr. Speaker, let's not justify in any way this attitude of shut down. If yesterday we were loud on the rooftops that it is not good to suspend or shut down, then today let us maintain the same principle and say that we would rather have an administrative engagement. Why should Asase Radio be denied the opportunity to broadcast? Why? Why will Wontumi be denied opportunity? Why is Wontumi suffering? Why is Wontumi suffering? Why is Wontumi suffering? What has Wontumi done? What at all has Wontumi done? Mr. Speaker, if we say we want to perfect our democracy, then we must be seen to be walking that talk towards perfecting our democracy. This business of it happened yesterday, so we must continue this vicious cycle. Mr. Speaker, it won't help any of us. Today, I will repeat what I've been saying since 7 January 2025, that this power of 187 is not permanent. We have seen 169 before, and we saw 137. So let us all be guided and know that the power immediately you are given is like an ice block. It begins to melt. We should be guided so that when the power comes to us, we will remember to put in certain blocks that one day we will use it for equity in times of need. But if you have a member for Kwesi Mintim who now says in his submission that he is applauding the harsh measures, the punitive actions of a regulatory authority, which is contrary to Constitution. If a lawyer from Kwesi Mintim and a member of this house argues that he finds no problem with an administrative authority vested with regulatory powers exceeding its mandate. Let me, Mr. Speaker, ask for Hansard. As for Hansard,
Honorable
it
Minority
would
Leader.
always be a great
Honorable Minority
witness.
Leader,
So, Mr. Speaker,
please operate within Order 91.4.
very well.
So,
Mr. Speaker, all that we are saying today will be referred to tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, so I would want to encourage Honorable Sector Minister to rather deepen the engagement process as directed by the President. Some of these belated actions for the purpose of optics will not help the cause of democracy. Stay away from the punitive actions. Stay away from this excuse of you need to enforce a regulation, especially when in enforcing the regulation you may be slipping out of the confines of the Constitution. We as the minority here will always move with full force to support all those who will be at the receiving end of any form of injustice. Mr. Speaker, without more, I shall resume my seat and listen to the majority leader to have his take on this matter. Thank you so much.